Okay, Panthers, we are back as I got cut off on the last video. So here is video 2. Again, we're talking about direct variation. We just were taking a look at letter B. We had our data in a table organized greatly. We found our k value by doing y divided by x, and we found a repeated pattern. We found out that our k value is 24 every single time, and therefore, obviously yes, since we have that repeated k value, it is a proportion. There's a proportional, or there's a direct variation. And number 2, the repeated pattern is 24, which is where we just left off. And step 3, what I'm looking for is for you to take this equation up here, y equals k times x, and just rewrite it substituting in your k value. So it would be y equals 24x. And this equation describes the relationship between x and y. Looking at this equation basically says the y value can be found by multiplying your x value by 24. Okay? Your y value can be found by multiplying the x value by 24. In other words, y is 24 times greater than x. And that is the relationship between all of the numbers in your data table. Now, let's take a look at some graphs. Okay, so a little bit different way of looking at your data, but we are going to follow the exact same steps. Now, remember on Wednesday in class, yesterday in class, we talked about when there is a constant rate of change, your data forms a straight line. So this is really going to help us. It's actually going to make this type of problem a little bit quicker. But what you do here is for it to be a direct variation, number one, it has to be a straight line, but there was one other piece in your notes that had to occur for it to be a straight line. Do you remember what it is? The second piece was that it had to go through the origin, or 0, 0 on your graph. Okay? So the nice thing about these is that we don't have to do any calculations at this point, but what we do have to do, check is if it meets this criteria. So number 1, first of all, is this a straight line of data? And clearly, yes, it is. Number 2, does it go through the origin on your graph? And this is not happening. And therefore, this is not a direct variation then. Okay? This is not a direct variation because it does not, again we're explaining, does not go through the origin. Okay? And obviously, if it's not a direct variation, there's no constant k value and obviously no equation to fill out, so you don't even have to finish number 2 and 3. If it's not a direct variation, you are done. Just explain why. Now for B, taking a look at B, yes, we have a straight line, and yes, it goes through the origin. So even though we don't have, per se, a graph of, or a table of data points, we can find some in our graph, there still is a direct variation. So yes, okay, just remember there's a straight line, and it goes through the origin. So mark that down. Now for the k value, what you need to do is find some plots that are on your line and see if, take the x value and divide it by the y value and make sure, you know, obviously with the straight line we know that we're going to get the same k value, but just check a couple points. For example, let's start here with this point here, and my pen's a little bit off, but this data point is over 2 and up 40. Remember that your data pieces are always x comma y, so my x is 2 and my y is 40. So let's take the y value of 40 and divide it by the x value. So we're getting 20 as this k value. So let's just check one more point to make sure that's really the case. This point up here, this is over 5, so my x value is 5, up 100. So again, do y, or 100, divided by x, which is 5, and again you get k. So again, when I take my y values and my x values, my y values and divide them by my x values, remember k is y divided by x, we get 20. And obviously we checked it 2 times just to make sure, so obviously it does repeat. And the last step again is taking this equation, y equals kx, and instead of k, plug in your k value. Again, this equation shows you the relationship between the x values and the y values in your data, all of your data sets. Okay, Panthers? So again, remember, we're looking for repeated patterns. If there are repeated patterns, it means that there is proportional relationships happening. If those proportional relationships form a line that goes through the origin, then it is a direct variation. So again, all very much related to each other. Hopefully, again, the problems are easier, sometimes easier to solve in the vocabulary, so don't get caught up in the vocabulary. Make sure your notes are completed, and I will see you soon.